So as you can see, I've got some scan tools in front of me, just a couple, and I've been posting quite a bit on my other platforms with the new Icon T8 scan tool. I posted a video on YouTube about the Icon T8, and I've been getting a lot of questions about scan tools, so I thought I'd just do an entire video dedicated to scan tools and try to answer as many questions as possible that I get. Number one being the most popular question I get is, what is the best scan tool for the money? Well, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered in that question. The short answer and the actual honest answer is all of them. There is no one scan tool that does it all, unfortunately. They all have their pros and cons. There's going to be data or bidirectional controls or something on that scan tool that doesn't do what you need it to do. And that is why I have multiple scan tools. Now, technically, the Harbor Freight one I bought solely to do some review videos and to share and hopefully give some good advice on whether to buy it or not to buy it. But aside from that, that's why I do have these other scan tools, is because there's been many times where my Snap-on scan tools don't have the data that I need or don't have the bidirectional control that I need, and I've had to use the top-down. Or vice versa. I've used the top-down and it's not needed what I needed, and I've had to use the Snap-on. So on and so forth. So unfortunately, there just is no best option out there. You really need to sit down and figure out what your capabilities are and go from there, and then start doing some research on your budget and how much money you want to spend and what you plan on doing with the scan tool. Now, before going into scan tools, I highly recommend everybody get a subscription to Scanner Premium and learn your basics in diagnostic testing. He doesn't just do scan tools, but he shows you how to take that data from the scan tool and diagnose a vehicle in a lot of his videos. And what I can tell you, from 90 to 95% of all the people that have asked me about scan tools in my lives, in my videos, in the comments, they underutilize their scan tools greatly. If you're a DIYer at home, you don't need to buy any of these scan tools. They're way more than you'll ever need. Most people working at home on their own vehicles are just checking codes, clearing codes, and maybe looking at some data. You need a code reader. There is a difference between a code reader and a scan tool, for sure. Then once you get into scan tools, they all have different capabilities of what they're able to do. One of the next most popular questions is, can it do programming? The short answer is no. Scan tools are not made to program. Now, there are some vehicles where you can do like some minor things as what would be called programming, but to do actual programming and reprogram a PCM, do updates through the manufacturer, you know, any of those things, program a new electronic control, or electronic power steering control, or electronic power steering rack. Holy cow, can't talk. You need a pass-through module and a laptop to do the programming that most people are asking about. Scan tools are not built for that. Now, to be fair, you can sometimes have the data on the scan tool and use a J-box, a J2534, which is essentially another pass-through module. And depending on what scan tool you buy, you can buy one with a J-box that comes with it, and then you can use that J-box and do some programming with that. So I highly recommend you do some digging and some research and find out that information on your own. If you want some videos to kind of walk you through and how to learn that, and each different manufacturer and how they do updates and stuff, you can check out L1 Diagnostics. Keith Perkins is a wizard when it comes to this stuff, and he has some videos. It's $25 a month for the subscription. It's very inexpensive. That coupled with Scanner for $11 a month, you can't go wrong. You're literally spending the best $36 a month that you can spend, especially the amount of money other things cost in this industry. No, I'm not sponsored by them. No, I'm not affiliated. I just know the information that you get is worth its weight in gold. So that being said, scan tools themselves, and I'm gonna try to keep this as short as possible. So like scan tools, like this Icon T8, for what it does have a lot of options. So the specific options on the Icon T8 is you have CAN FD, you have ADOS calibrations, you can program some keys, and keys can get tricky, y'all. Some vehicles are super easy, like Hondas and Toyotas are pretty fairly simple to program keys, not too complicated. and pretty straightforward. But there are other vehicles and manufacturers that are not so easy, and it's not going to be able to do that. If you want to get more in depth in keys and programming and stuff like that, I would suggest you look into an IM508 from Autel or an IM608 from Autel. Both great tools. And then you have, this does also, it does have auto-auth on it. All of these actually have auto-auth, sort of. TopDon is having an issue with licensing. I think they've got it figured out, or they're close to getting it figured out. Auto-auth is for FCA, SGA, Chrysler, essentially. Any new Chrysler vehicle, you have to have auto-auth authorization. And so you pay, I believe it's $50 a year now, and then you get your auto-auth authorization, and you register your scan tool with your auto-auth account, and then you can hook up to newer Chrysler vehicles. And so those things are going to matter depending on what you're going to do on the vehicle and what you're diagnosing and what capabilities you need for your scan tool. This is such a weird topic, and I just think scan tools are just generally misunderstood. A lot of, again, DIYers are looking into buying scan tools, and that's fine if you want to learn, but the mass majority of people are going to be throwing their money away because they're never going to use 90% of the capabilities of a scan tool anyways. Now, you can buy some basic scan tools. This technically is not a scan tool. It is a battery tester. It's the Autel BT609. But it does have the diagnostic software on there, and it does do bidirectional controls, which is pretty good for having a quote-unquote battery tester. But there are other scan tools only that aren't specifically battery testers that do the same thing. The TopDon RD Diag Pro is a bidirectional scan tool as well, but they're going to be limited on function, so it's less expensive scan tools. They're not going to have key programming. They're not going to have ADOS. They're not going to have CAN-FD. Most of them are not going to have topology. The sad part is, out of all these that I own, only one of them does topology. And with CAN bus systems now, topology is a big thing that we are going to need. So I'm not sure why these other companies are not getting with the program. That's a big frustration with me personally. So other than that, the other questions are, you know, I have a budget of $1,000. What's the best scan tool to buy? Again, it's going to depend on what you work on the most. I personally use my Snap-ons the most, and that's because I specialize in Hondas and Acuras, and I work on primarily Asian and domestic vehicles. So I don't work on Euro cars. I don't work on diesels. Snap-ons pretty sorely lacking in the Euro world. They're not terrible, but they're not great. There are other players in the game like TopDon and Autel that do a much better job in the Euro world, and even then they still lack some. So for me, Snap-ons has been the best for me for Hondas. They seem to have the best information, the most accurate information, and one of the things I've liked about Snap-on over the other brands is that when you go in and look at data, it displays all the fitted systems. When I hook up my TopDon, it gives me every system in the car, whether it's fitted to that vehicle or not. And I don't like all that wasted info and wasted data. I just want to know what that car's equipped with and look at that data. So that's always been a frustrating part to me. But again, everything has its pros and cons. Snap-ons are extremely expensive. In my opinion, yes, overpriced. When a Zeus Plus is $10,000 to $12,000 and you can buy a Autel Ultra for $4,000 to $4,500 and a TopDon Max for around the same price. That's a huge price discrepancy, and they're very capable tools and all very similarly matched with each other. All have 4-channel lap scopes. They all have all of the other same functions, essentially. The only thing that the Snap-ons typically have over the other ones is guided component tests, which is really good, but it's not $6,000 more worth in that arena. So anyways, if you have any questions, throw them down in the comments. Hopefully I answered some of your questions about scan tools. And like I said, if you have any questions, throw them down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer. If you want a really good video on programming and an explanation of that, Check Engine Chuck just posted one on TikTok, and it was a really good video because he gets a lot of the same questions and people asking about scan tools. So appreciate y'all. Take it easy.